All right, folks. We're going to continue on with the afternoon agenda. Please take your seats. We're in the home stretch, folks. All right, it's really my pleasure to welcome our next presenters. I feel like I should be that kindergarten teacher that does dun, 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 and then you have to repeat that. Da, da, da. All right. All right, folks. So really my pleasure to welcome our next two speakers, Erin Autry and Joanna Marks. I have had the pleasure of working with these two individuals as they are helping us create a NICU family engagement campaign. We don't really know what the end product, platform, campaign will be. We are in the early stages of landscape analysis, and they will be sharing some of the preliminary findings of their landscaping approach. So let me tell you a little bit about them. So Erin brings over 25 years of experience as a creative and strategic problem solver and has a true passion for leveraging human-centered design and storytelling to create brands and awareness campaigns for social change. She founded Three Story Design, a boutique social impact design firm with a concentration in nonprofit and cause marketing over 20 years ago. Joanna is a seasoned researcher, project manager, and management consultant with specialties in audience research and organizational strategy. She's worked for and alongside nonprofits and other social impact organizations for more than 20 years, with a focus on those serving children and families. So clearly a wide range of expertise within this design group. And so really excited to hear what they have discovered thus far.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having us. Usually when agencies present, there's a little sizzle, but today we don't have creatives. So I know it's late afternoon and we hope you'll stick with us. One clarification really quickly before I dive into sort of the background of what we're doing and where we are in the process. When we say campaign, back in the day, a social awareness campaign would be flyers and posters and you know exactly what I'm talking about. But now we really think of those as differently. We think of them as interventions. We think about where we can infuse technology, how we can engage family voice, parent voice, lived experience, all of those things. So there's so much more than posters and flyers, just to kind of frame what we mean by campaign. Essentially, the project goals for us that we collaborated with Susan's team was really to go deep into an investigation and research phase and get a clear understanding of what is out there. And then ultimately turn this into education. So how can we reduce stigma and bias around the NICU experience and the practice of it? And then also support busy providers like yourselves in the room in communicating care information to families. And then ultimately, these solutions should translate into families feeling less isolation and really improving their mental wellness. So the graphic to the right of the slide is really our process, and where we're at in the beginning of this funnel that you see is the discovery phase. So what are we doing? We're looking at quantitative data. We'll share a little bit of that with you today. You're probably all more than aware, but we have to frame the problem in order to solve it. We're also conducting qualitative research. Joanna's going to share a little bit about that today. We've done some NICU visits, so it's really important to us to experience it firsthand. And then, as we said, we're doing landscape analysis. So what does it look like across the nation? What are the different mechanisms that folks are using in hospital situations? Are there campaigns out there? What does podcasts look like? What are social media? What are support groups look like? We look at all of it and we start to think about what's working, what's not, what's missing. Again, you know, ultimately our goals here is that we know that parents with infants in the NICU are experiencing a lot of postpartum depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and anxiety. And ultimately, why should we care? This is why we're framing this, you know, sort of backdrop for the campaign, which is we know that these lead potentially to a difficult parent-infant bond early on, which then leads to adverse childhood outcomes. And we know that that can affect cognitive, developmental, and behavioral functioning. ultimately, we do a lot of work in the education space, so we see this even further down the line. So we think this is a really important intervention early on. From a data perspective, I again won't read these all to you, but again, who are our Colorado NICU families? Some of the highlights here are just that 2 and 5 babies in the NICU are covered by Medicaid. So as we've talked a lot about today, social determinants of health will be an important factor to consider in the work that we do. 50% of mothers are first-time moms. So they're not only premature parents, they're also first-time parents. And that is incredibly hard. And then, you know, more than 2 times of the babies that are born before 36 weeks, the mom's already gone through, they are twice as likely to be born to a mother who has not had prenatal care. So that's compounding it. So we don't have education going on through the process of the pregnancy, and then perhaps now we're a premature parent and we're in a very crisis situation. What else do we know about Colorado families? 1 in 5 of them, babies are born to mothers that are from outside the US. So that talks a lot about a lot of our discussion today about ensuring that we're representing everyone at the table and having translation and all of those assets. 12% of them were twins or triplets, which just compounds issues. You know, I've heard stories today of like different discharge days. And, you know, just if you're a first-time parent, then you also have multiples, the challenges that would lie within that. So really recognizing that. And then over half of the babies born in the NICU also had moms recovering from a major surgery. So mom is going through lots of things, families are going through lots of things, and of course, babies on their own journey. So these are just some early insights. This is not going to be earth-shattering to you yet, but we take all these insights and then we eventually distill them into sort of the assets that we would create. And I think that we just heard it said very well. Some of the small things are the biggest things that we can do. But what we know is that a lot of families have experienced NICU-itis. We've heard the word roller coaster a lot today. They're experiencing isolation. There's a lack of knowledge, you know, especially of what's going on in the NICU, but then how to go home from the NICU. A pressure of becoming an educator to your family and friends, that burden should not be on parents' shoulders during this time. So how can we alleviate that? And just that feeling of being behind constantly in knowledge and then developmental milestones. Parents are also juggling a lot of other things. They may have other children at home. We talked a lot about family leave today at our table and other tables, understanding and navigating employment issues, getting paid leave, all of those things. So again, how can we address those? And then just normalizing asking for help in general. So I'll turn it to Joanna.
Okay, thanks, Erin. So I'll be sharing some of the qualitative data that's underway right now. So I will be building on what's in the slides here because this is unfolding just in the last few weeks as we hear from families and providers doing interviews to hear those stories and voices to build on some of the numbers that we're sharing today. So some of the things that we're hearing that are not up on this slide but feel really important. First is the vital role of the healthcare team. So that's the majority of you in this room and on Zoom today. We're just hearing so much appreciation and praise for the teams that are supporting the families. And I think it's important, we were just talking about nursing buy-in in that last session, and our hope is to really add to and support those existing important efforts. This campaign or product that we're talking about is not anything to replace the good work that's being done, but we do hope that we can add to it in a meaningful way. A couple of the other themes that have been coming out in conversations with families are prior trauma. So that might be previous loss or losses, and it might be other life experiences that have been traumatic. But keeping that in mind, we're hearing, we're asking families about how they want to receive information from providers. And we recognize, just as we heard throughout the day, that there's no one size fits all. In the interviews I've had so far, I'm tending to hear that folks are wanting providers to be pretty blunt with them and pretty transparent. One parent said, quote, "The willingness to share all aspects of what was really happening gave us confidence." At the same time, we recognize that each family is unique. And so providers do need to gauge each family's openness and interest in getting information in different ways. And then the last thing I'll highlight is before discharge is some of the unexpected challenges that families have pointed out. So one was this experience of working with a large and frequently changing care team. It's not that we're looking to change the structure or the flow of that, but maybe there are ways to give parents a heads up or a different understanding that that will be part of their experience and make that one thing a little bit easier. We're also hearing from parents who talk about that the periods of relative calm in their NICU experience, so once things have settled down at least somewhat, can be pretty uncomfortable and challenging in their own way when there is not a crisis situation. This is a quote that resonated with us when we started our desk research when the slides were due. And I will also share two quotes from recent interviews with folks within Colorado. And I think they all just underline what we've talked about today, the potential for traumatic experiences and really lasting PTSD. One mom I interviewed recently spoke about how, quote, "the NICU journey can threaten to steal from you." And I just hear the fear in that statement or the potential for fear, talking about, as we've heard today, you know, threatening your connection with your baby, your connection with your spouse, financial concerns, so many different things. And another provider in Colorado just highlighted the importance of infant mental health psychologists, which we know are not financially feasible at all sites. But just talking about opportunities to help families process the birth trauma, cope during NICU admission, and help parents prepare and process for the discharge home when they're getting ready to leave those many supports that they have in the hospital. This slide highlights something else that you've heard about today, which is that basically all adults, all walking down the street in the parking lot right now, don't have the health literacy skills to navigate our current healthcare system. It is a very, very difficult thing to navigate simply for anyone on any given day. If you add in the trauma and stress of the NICU experience, that is going to decrease the baseline health literacy for parents. So we just want to underline that the stress of the NICU really impacts parents' ability to absorb and retain information. And it's something really important for us to keep in mind as we try to develop resources and strategies and tools for parents. So what might some of these solutions, campaigns, tools look like? As we think about the post-discharge experience, we really want to continue to support systems and education for parents. That includes repeating information. So we've heard today about starting really early from admission, but continuing that because folks are at different places at different times throughout this journey. Developing networks of mentorship and support, including peer supports. We're exploring post-discharge doulas. We're also looking at learning libraries to have approved content shared perhaps by social media and in really small bites so families can take them in amidst everything else they have going on. I'm actually going to skip over this one. We've heard so much today. We know about the mental health challenges of families here. And just go ahead and talk about more ways that we're looking at developing connection and reducing isolation among parents. So we're hearing that storytelling about experiences is meaningful and important part of combating isolation and healing and creating awareness. So we're looking at avenues for that. We are exploring social media, what's out there, what gaps might there be, and content to help normalize the experience for parents. And we're also looking at texting platform options that might extend encouragement and offer tips. Lastly, we've heard a lot about social determinants of health today, and we want to highlight a few areas that we're currently exploring. One is looking at employment, and so including the family paid leave benefit. It's not completely straightforward. So what are ways that we can help parents to learn about and potentially access that and make the most of it? Other stressors that we heard about today, and we're also hearing about in interviews, include transportation being the biggest ones. I know Gabby talked about it this morning. It's not just the expense or the time involved or health or safety concerns, but as Erin said, most of these moms are recovering from major surgery. And so that's an important consideration as well. So we're part of our job is to be creative about what are solutions to help support folks in these situations. So that's a really quick preview of the work that we have underway right now. I'll put in a plug that if you haven't decided on your one thing you'll do today, this could be it. This QR code leads to an extremely short form where you can give us feedback. Do you have a question or an idea or a comment about this glimpse of our work? This is also a place where you can sign up to receive updates for a survey that will be opening any day now, we hope next week. And it's a survey for parents with NICU experience who are 6 to 12 months post-discharge. And so we're really excited. It's a paid survey and it will be offered in English and Spanish. And we would love to hear from parents across the entire state and speaking English and or Spanish to get a wide range of perspectives. So thank you very much for letting us share this brief preview. We really have so much appreciation for the important work you do. Thanks, Susan.
More to come, certainly. I'm hoping that next year's forum will have more to share in terms of what this campaign, it will say in quotes, will look like. So thank you. All right.